We often talk about Google's Pixel phones going head-to-head with Samsung's mighty Galaxy lineup, creating this epic smartphone rivalry in our minds. But what if I told you that entire perception is, well, pretty much a marketing mirage? You see, for all the buzz and the enthusiastic debates in tech circles, the reality of smartphone sales tells an incredibly different story. Samsung, by every measurable metric, remains the undisputed heavyweight champion of the global smartphone market. Google's Pixel, despite its growing popularity, barely even registers in the top 5. Let's really put this into perspective. In the second quarter of 2025, Samsung shipped a staggering 58 million phones worldwide. Over 13 million of those found homes right here in the US. Now, compare that to Google, who managed to ship around 800,000 Pixels in the US during that very same period. That's not a rivalry, that's a massive chasm. We are talking about a sales gap so enormous in the US, it likely stretches even wider when you consider the rest of the planet. So, why does this perception persist, and why does Google face such an uphill battle? Let's unpack a few crucial reasons why the Pixel, at least for the foreseeable future, won't be catching the Galaxy. First, we need to talk about what I call Google's budget blind spot. The Pixel lineup, by design, is remarkably lean. You have your flagship Pixel 10 series, and then a slightly more affordable A-series model. While you can still snag last year's models, Google really offers no true budget phones. Think about Samsung, on the other hand. They absolutely flood the market with dozens of models every single year, catering to every user and every single price point. Whether you want a $1,000 flagship or a $200 entry-level device, Samsung has you covered. They even release phones exclusive to certain countries, designed with a specific user in mind, all in the relentless pursuit of sales volume. Many assume Samsung's top sellers in a market like the US are their premium Galaxy S-series phones, but that's a misconception. A recent report revealed Samsung's most popular US phone was an affordable Galaxy A16 5G, followed by the even cheaper Galaxy A06 4G. This represents a massive market segment Google completely ignores, making it incredibly difficult to catch up in sales. If there's that much demand for Samsung's budget phones in the US, imagine how amplified this trend is in other parts of the world where purchasing power is significantly lower. Then, there's the undeniable battle of scale. On paper, a high-end Pixel phone costs about the same as a Samsung counterpart. You might think Google could boost sales by simply undercutting Samsung on price. But this is where the economics of scale come into play, and Samsung wields a gargantuan advantage. Simply put, the more units a company produces, the lower the cost per unit. Google simply cannot compete on this front. They produce a mere fraction of the phones Samsung does annually, making it much harder for them to drive down production costs. What's more, Samsung is a vertically integrated giant, boasting its own manufacturing facilities. Google, conversely, outsources its production. Samsung often makes the displays on Pixel phones, and even manufactured Google's Tensor chipsets for several generations. It simply costs Google more to build its phones than it costs Samsung. You could argue Google doesn't want to undercut Samsung, as they aim to position their brand as premium, but we can't ignore the impact this has on sales. Next, consider the sheer lack of global reach. Samsung has been in the electronics business for decades, establishing incredibly robust distribution channels across the globe. They have partnerships with major carriers and retailers in virtually every market, big and small. Google, while expanding its network, cannot realistically compete with this deeply entrenched global machine. The Pixel 10 series, for example, is officially available in a mere 33 countries. Samsung phones, by contrast, sell in the vast majority of the world's nations. Google also lacks the extensive carrier deals Samsung has solidified, which remain the primary sales channel for most phones. Just 5 years ago, with the Pixel 5 series, Google only had 9 markets. The situation improves, but this lack of a true global distribution network remains a significant handicap. And finally, we have the immense power of perception. Samsung's brand identity is deeply rooted in hardware: phones, TVs, appliances, electronics. When you think of Google, you likely think of software and services, search, Gmail, Maps, perhaps those omnipresent online ads. While Google has played the hardware game since the first Nexus phone in 2010, It's not what the average consumer associates with the brand. Within the tech community, the Pixel is known and respected, but for many outside these circles, especially internationally, the brand remains unfamiliar. It simply isn't perceived as being as established or premium as Samsung. Consumers haven't built up enough trust yet, and changing that perception takes a long time. The only way forward is to get more Pixels into people's hands. A tough challenge when your cheapest phone costs around $500 and isn't even available in most of the world. However, here's the unexpected twist, and perhaps the most compelling reason. Google may not even be trying to outsell Samsung. A recent interview with Google's leadership suggests they are well aware Pixels won't outsell Galaxies, and it feels like that isn't even their primary goal. Google's strategic focus seems centered on expanding Android's market share as a whole, rather than becoming the world's biggest phone maker. Think about it this way. Convincing a Samsung user to switch to a Pixel does absolutely nothing for the overall Android ecosystem. The market share remains unchanged. But convincing an Apple user to make that switch? That's a direct win for Google. This is why many call the Pixel the iPhone of Android. Google's strategy appears to involve making the transition from iOS to Android as seamless as possible. Just like the iPhone, the Pixel emphasizes simplicity, offering a clean software experience and a recognizable design. Its model lineup more or less directly competes with Apple's offerings. By providing a compelling alternative, Google aims to lure users away from its true rival, Apple, thereby increasing Android's overall market share. So, while the Pixel continues to impress us with its AI prowess and clean software, it seems Google is playing a longer, perhaps even a smarter, game. One where outselling Samsung isn't the finish line. We have to ask ourselves, is Google just misunderstood, or have they truly redefined what success looks like in the smartphone arena? What do you think? Let us know your thoughts and hit that subscribe button to keep up with all the latest in tech.